Hello students, my name is Niyati Seth and thanks for watching Edpedia word videos. My topic for the presentation is the fifth section of the chapter Control and Coordination, that is Neural Control and Coordination. In this section of presentation, we'll be studying about the human eye. One of the most complicated optical devices is the human eye. If we see, then the eyes, they are located on the ventral side in the bony sockets called as orbits. Only 1/6 of its total surface area is exposed, while 5/6 of it lies within the orbit. That means it is inside the orbit. Okay? It is a hollow spherical organ with a diameter of about 2.5 centimeter. That means this is the diameter from here to here, 2.5 centimeter. Now let's see the construction of a human eye. See, this is sclera, this is retina, this is lens, this red one is your iris, and this is your pupil, and this yellow part is your cornea. Okay, and this is, what is this? This is your optical nerve, and this is your retina. Okay, so if we see sclera, then sclerotic is a tough, opaque and white substance forming the outermost coating of the yet. The front portion is, as you can see, the front portion is sharply curved, right? It is sharply curved and it is covered by a transparent protective membrane called as cornea. Below sclera, there is a layer of black tissue which we call it as choroids. Choroid is not mentioned here in this diagram, but yes, it lies just below sclera, and it consists of mass of blood vessels which nourishes the eye. Behind the cornea, see, this is your cornea, right? So just behind the cornea, the space is filled with a liquid called as aqueous humor. What is this? This is your aqueous humor. And behind that, a crystalline lens. Now comes iris. This is iris. This red portion is your iris. Iris is a muscular diaphragm-like structure that lies between the aqueous humor. This is aqueous humor, okay, the fluid filled, behind the cornea. This green part is your aqueous humor. Okay, so your iris, it lies between aqueous humor and the crystalline lens. What is this? This is your lens, and this is your aqueous humor. So your iris is it lies between your aqueous humor and the lens. Okay, now iris, students, it has an adjustable opening in the middle called the pupil of the eye. Okay, what is this? This is your pupil. This red one and this red one is your iris, but this part is your pupil. Pupil, it appears black because all the light entering is absorbed by the retina. Where is retina? This is retina. Okay, and which covers inside of the rear part of the ball. And what does iris do? Iris, it controls the amount of light emerges because the retina absorbs nearly all the light which falls upon it. This is done by varying the aperture of the pupil with the help of iris. Okay, now let's see its construction in detail. Okay, as I have told you that the adult human eyeball is nearly a spherical in structure, and the wall of the eyeball is composed of 3 layers. Which are those? First, external layer is your sclera, right? Sclera, which I have taught you. This is your sclera, and anterior portion of this layer is called as cornea. What is this? This is your cornea. Okay, so this is your second layer. And the middle layer is your choroid that contains blood vessels and looks bluish in color. So sight is one of the most important senses. The eye lies in a socket in a skull and is moved by the action of 3 pairs of eye muscles. Which are those 3 eye muscles we'll be studying in detail, but for the time being just know that movement of eye is controlled by the action of 3 pairs of eye muscles which swivel the eye in their sockets. Okay, see, the colored part of your eye is called as iris. Some have blue eyes, some have black eyes, and some have brown eyes. So the colored part of your eye is called as iris. Okay, and where is iris? This is your iris. Okay, this is your iris, this one and this one. The iris is made up of muscle fibers. Okay, they consist of muscle fibers which help to control the size of pupil. See, this is pupil. Okay, and the pupil aperture is controlled by these iris. The pupil is not an actual structure but the circular opening in the middle of iris. You can see in your eyes also the black part is your pupil, and the pupil aperture is controlled by the action of iris. Okay, so pupil is not an actual structure but the circular opening in the middle of iris. Okay, the pupil, this is pupil, right? This is pupil. It appears as a dark central part of the eye. The pupil can change size through changes in the iris, because I have told you that iris it controls the aperture of the pupil in order to regulate the amount of light going through it. Otherwise, light would hamper the activity of the eye. So you can say that pupil, it changes its size in order to regulate the amount of light entering through it. In darkness, or you can say in the dim light, your pupil will get bigger to allow in more light, because in dim light you won't be able to see anything properly. So in darkness your pupil will get bigger to allow in more light, whereas on the contrary to that, in the bright light your pupil will get smaller, so that not much of the light enters through it, because much light will hamper the activity of the eye. Okay, so this was all about the iris. Now moving on to next, that is your retina. This is retina, right? This is your retina and this is your optical nerve. Okay, this is your retina, this one, and this is your retina. So retina is a layer on the inside of the back of the eyeball. This is your eyeball. Okay, this is your eyeball, and this is your retina. Okay, and this is your optic nerve. So the retina is a layer on inside of the back of the eyeball, and it contains highly specialized nerve cells, which we'll be studying in detail. Okay, but for the time being, just know that retina, it contains highly specialized nerve cells. Okay, now these specialized nerve cells, they convert the light which is focused there into the electrical signals, so that our brain can interpret and we can clearly see the images. So retina, it converts the light which is focused there into the electrical signals. Okay, now these are then passed through the optic nerves. See, this is nerve and this is retina. So once retina converts the light which is focused there into the electrical signals, then it passes it to the optical nerves, so to the parts of the brain which process vision and build up the picture that we see. Okay, so this is the function of a retina. Now third is your macula. Near the center of the retina is a macula. See, this is your macula. Okay, what is it? Macula, you can say that it is a small, highly sensitive part of the retina. Okay, this is very sensitive part of the retina, and it is responsible for detailed central vision, the part you use when you look directly at something. It contains fovea, the area of your eye which produces the sharpest images of all. Okay, so this is the macula, which is present near the center of the retina, and it is a small, highly sensitive part of the retina, you can say. Okay. Okay, retina, you can say that it is the innermost layer of the eye, and it consists of 3 sublayers. Mainly, first layer is your photoreceptor cell. Second is your middle bipolar cell, and third is your inner ganglion cell. Now moving on to next, that is your sclera. Where is sclera? This is your sclera. Okay, this one is your sclera. So, as I have told you that the vertical section of an eye shows that eyeball is a hollow sphere, and eyeball consists of a wall of 3 layers. Which are those? First is your outer fibrous coat that has 2 categories, sclera and cornea. Sclera and cornea. And the inner layer of the eyeball is middle vascular coat, which contains choroid and ciliary bodies, okay, and iris. Okay, so these 3 comes under the second category, that is middle vascular coat. And the third category is your inner nervous coat, that is retina, and it has again 3 sublayers: layer of photoreceptor cell, layer of bipolar neuron, okay, and the layer of ganglionic cell. Okay, so we'll focus on sclera. Sclera is the outermost layer. This is your sclera. Okay, so this is your outermost fibrous layer, and it is differentiated into 2 parts like sclera and cornea. So the sclera is the outermost layer in the posterior 5/6 of the eye, and it is called as sclera. It is very tough, it is elastic in nature, and it consists of fibrous tissue that contains collagen fibers. It gives protection and shape of the eyeball. And just behind sclera there is a cornea. Cornea, it is the outermost layer in the anterior 1/6 of the eye, which is in continuation of the sclera. See, this is your sclera, right? And it is cornea, it is in continuation with the sclera. It is more curved, transparent, and is meant for refracting light rays onto the retina. It doesn't have blood supply. This cornea, your cornea doesn't get blood supply, and it absorbs some amount of oxygen from the air. The cornea is covered by thin transparent vascular conjunctiva. Okay, as you can see, this is your conjunctiva. Okay, so your cornea is covered by a thin transparent vascular conjunctiva. Okay, so let's focus here in the sclera once again. White part of your eye is called as sclera. It is a hard protective layer which covers all the eyeball except cornea, and the next layer beneath the sclera between retina and sclera is called as choroid. Okay, it is choroid. Choroid is not, see, it is here. This one is your choroid. Okay, and what does a choroid do? This layer is pigmented and highly vascularized. Okay, and this prevents the internal reflection of light, and it might reduce the resolution also. And the choroid, it contains lot of blood vessels, and which provide oxygen and nutrients to the retina below, because retina, it lies just below, right? This is your retina and this is your choroid. At the front of the eyeball, the choroid connects with the ciliary body. See, this is your choroid, right? And at the front of the eyeball, the choroid connects with the ciliary body. What does ciliary body do? It is just behind the junction between sclera and cornea. The choroid becomes thickened to form the ciliary body. That means ciliary body is nothing but it is a tough form of choroid. Okay, it is attached to the suspensory ligaments, and along with them it helps in holding the lens in position. As you can see, this function of the ciliary body is to hold this lens in position. Now what does lens do? Lens is a solid. This is your lens. Lens is solid, elastic and biconvex body, which is made up of epithelial cells with clear and transparent cytoplasm. It is enclosed in a thin elastic membrane, which we call it as lens capsule. The lens can change its convexity and thereby brings about accommodation of eye. Okay, so this was all about sclera, choroids and ciliary body. Now moving on to the next, that is ciliary body. Ciliary body, as I have already taught you, that ciliary body is a part of an eye which includes the ciliary muscles. Ciliary muscles, it changes the shape of the pupil by changing the shape of iris. Okay, and they help in producing aqueous humor. Aqueous humor is filled here. Okay, aqueous humor, you can say that it is a liquid that fills the front of the eye. Okay, it contains a thin watery fluid known as aqueous humor. Or you can say that eyeball, entire eyeball, this is your eyeball. Okay, so the entire eyeball is differentiated into two chambers. First is your aqueous humor and second is your vitreous humor. Okay, so the aqueous chamber is a space between cornea and lens. See, this is your cornea and this is your lens, and the fluid filled is called as aqueous humor. Okay, and the larger space, this is your vitreous humor. Okay, this is your vitreous humor. So vitreous humor, the larger space between lens and retina is termed as vitreous humor. From lens to retina, the fluid filled is known as vitreous humor. Okay, it is filled with transparent gelatinous fluid known as vitreous humor. The aqueous humor and the vitreous humor, it maintain the shape of the eyeball. Okay, and please note that aqueous humor, it is made continuously. It circulates through the front part of the eye and it drains away through an area called as trabecular meshwork. This is your trabecular meshwork. So the aqueous humor, it drains from trabecular meshwork because it is made continuously, so it has to be drained away also from the area known as trabecular meshwork, which is near the base of the iris. See, this is your iris and it is present near at the base. Okay, so aqueous humor, it drains from the trabecular meshwork. Okay, the globe of the eye needs to keep its shape so that light rays are focused accurately onto the retina. Okay, most of the eye is therefore filled with a jelly-like substance, and which we call it as vitreous humor. This is your vitreous humor. Okay, vitreous humor is you can say that it is transparent, it is gelatinous fluid. Okay, and please note that aqueous humor and vitreous humor, together it maintains the shape of the eyeball. Okay, now before seeing things, we'll study about the optic nerves also. What does optic nerve do? Optic nerve, this is your optic nerve. It lies just behind your retina. Okay, so this is your optic nerve. Optic nerve, it leaves the eye at a point slightly away from the median posterior pole of the eye. The rod and the cones, they are absent in this region. That means in your optic nerve, no rod cells, no cone cells are present in your optic nerve, and that's why it is known as blind spot. A yellowish pigmented spot called as macula lutea. This is your macula lutea. Okay, and it is a yellowish pigmented spot. It is present lateral to the blind spot. See, this part is your blind spot, and this part is your macula lutea, where you can say that it is a yellowish pigmented spot which is present laterally to the optical nerve, and the blind spot with the central pit termed as fovea centralis. That means this part is your fovea centralis. Okay, it is thinned out portion of the retina where only cones are densely packed, and therefore they have greatest visual acuity, that is resolution power. Okay, so that means this is your the central part of this macula lutea is your fovea centralis, and fovea centralis is a thinned out portion of a retina where only cone cells are densely seen, and therefore it has a greatest resolution. Okay, so I hope all the parts of the eye is clear to you all. Now, seeing things. How we see things? First, light enters the eye through the cornea, and then it passes through the lens, and then it is focused on retina, which is present at the posterior side of the eyeball. And the receptor cells in the retina, it send impulses to the brain through sensory neurons. Sensory neurons I have already taught you in my previous section of the presentation. So the receptor cells in the retina, it send impulse to the brain along sensory neurons, along the optic nerve. And then the brain interprets the impulse to make a clear picture which we see. Okay, so this was all about the human eye. Okay, in my next section of the presentation we'll be studying about the glands of the eye. So till then, stay tuned and keep watching Edupedia Word videos.